So today we do have quite an exciting guest. We've got Patrick Choi, who basically completely transformed his touring business, went from 12K to 70K this January.
Yeah.
So how was it, Patrick?
Well, I mean, it was great. Like right now I'm dealing with like growing problems.
Hmm.
So like, we have to we're hiring new teachers. I'm realizing like the problems that I had, the way that I was running my company at 12K is very different from the way it has to run at 70K. So we're going through growing pains, but it's always, it's a good problem to have. So, yeah.
All right. And what were kind of the challenges before you joined us?
Well, so I was running Facebook ads well before I met with you guys.
Hmm.
But and they were doing okay. So we were doing about 20 to 30K every couple of months, and it was doing fine. But then I started to realize that it was very inconsistent, just because I wasn't paying as much attention to it and like all
Yep.
the numbers. And then it took up a lot of time, right? So because I was the salesperson, I was doing the setting, so I was doing everything, and it's just like I couldn't run my business. I was just pretty much just on Facebook Ads Manager and just on calls and things like that. So I decided to find find a marketing company that can kind of take over that
Hmm.
part for me. And so before you guys, I went through two different marketing companies. And they promised me the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
one guy's like, I have an AI appointment setter, nothing. It really, and like, at the end of the day, one thing that was very difficult was whenever I gave them feedback, I would get this whole like, oh, don't worry, we'll get there eventually. And I would, for every company I would work for about 3 months with, because I was like, that's more than enough time in my opinion. And after 3 months, nothing happens. So then I'm like, okay, we have to move on. And then when I met with you guys,
Hmm.
you guys had experience working directly with certain tutors. And so I was like, okay, that's good. And then when we started working, whenever I gave you guys feedback, like, Simon was very, very clear. He was like, just tell me, right? Because, like if, we'll try it, because if we don't try it, you're never going to know. All right. So we'll try it just to make, just to see if that does work. And then we'll build off of that. So, I think that was the biggest kind of difference between everything else. Right. So,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. What was kind of the breaking point when you were like, all right, that's it. I need
uh,
someone for this. And
it was, I guess it was about October, when I had gone through about 6 months of very low sales. Even during
Mhm.
the months when last year, when I was doing it on my own, I was getting a lot of sales on my own. So I was like, you know what, like, I need to find somebody that's going to be able to do this for me. And so I took a shot with you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was it?
Mhm.
Why did you take the shot?
You know, it's weird, but like Simon was really convincing, like like because like it's you see ads all the time on Facebook. You don't
Hmm.
know who to trust. Testimonials are testimonials. And then at the end, but then I'm always kind of worried that what worked for one person might not work for me, right? And like and things like that. And but then with Simon, he did a great job convincing me that it's he's that they've done that you guys have done education before. With tutors and people that even tutors that I followed on Instagram on my own anyway. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh hey, you're working with them. And then I also knew that I felt like you guys were going to really listen, right? And just kind of help me with the business together, as opposed to, don't worry, Pat, I got the marketing, and then nothing comes out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you did need quite a lot of convincing, if I can remember correctly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, fair enough. But we
Well,
ended up together, so all right then.
Mhm.
What was the first like major shift, right? When did you see like, okay, this could work?
Well, I always kind of knew that it could work. Like I try not to go into a situation thinking it's not going to work,
Yeah,
because then
obviously.
it's just there's no point, right? But then I had my faith, and it was the sales were slowly coming in, and like everyone was kind of getting calibrated, and even then we were still making some sales. So I was like, okay, this looks pretty good. But then during one of our talks, we talked about like the specific type of program that a lot of high school students want to get into, but it's very competitive, and they were like, why don't we just advertise to them? And I was
Hmm.
like, that's kind of crazy. And then he's like, no, let's give it a shot. And so he did. and it just went crazy, and like, our the lead quality is unbelievable. Like our show up rate is really, really high. Our close rate is actually pretty high based on, just because
Hmm.
most of the people that show up are, they're serious because the message is clear. They know exactly what they're looking for. And like once we switched over to those ads, I was like, you know what, this is it. We're gonna do it now. And like I for the whole month of January, even though we were very busy, I wasn't worried anymore.
Yeah.
Even though, because I was like, holy shit, I think we got like it's all coming into place now. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And what
Mhm.
was that like first holy shit moment where you're like, okay, this seems like it's gonna do very good.
Well, the real like the biggest holy shit was last week. I think we closed 13 or 12K in one day.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just like, whoa, like what? I was like, that's the most money. And like, I didn't want to tell anybody because I was like, don't jinx it. I was just like, okay. And Simon's like, hey, just to let you know. I was like, I know. Like, just shh, don't say anything, right? So, that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Were there any lessons along the way that you learned and that kind of changed you?
Yeah, I mean, one thing was as a small business owner, I tend to think that if I don't do it, then no one else can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I learned from you guys was it's actually easier if I just find someone I can trust to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once I find that someone that I can trust, it's easier for that area to improve and to be good because as the owner, if I mess up a little bit, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if like I hold myself accountable to myself. Whereas like if you work with somebody else, they hold themselves accountable to me. I hold myself accountable to them, and it kind
Yep.
of works in tandem. So like as being an owner of a company, there's very little accountability. So this kind of allows another level of accountability that I think was missing from a lot of people.
Yeah,
So
100%. So accountability is a big one. And obviously you can't do everything yourself, right?
you can't,
Eventually
yeah,
you need
yeah,
someone to help you
hmm
if you want to scale, right? Obviously if
right,
someone that wants to say at 5, 10K per month, then you can probably do it all by yourself.
right.
Um, what would you give as advice for someone who's like in a situation where you were before?
Well, so one thing I started to realize was the way that you approach these things, like the amount of your willingness to go in on a coaching program, pay for a high price coaching program, and then follow through on the coaching program, right? Like that mentality attracts your customers like that. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you're not willing to spend money on a coaching program, how are you going to sell a coaching program? Right? Like, how are you going to sell your whatever thing that you're trying to sell if you yourself won't buy something and then go all in on that, right? So, I think that if you do want to grow, and if you want, your business to be consistent, which I think once your business is consistent, then everything else becomes a lot easier because now you know how much money you're going to make every month, what you can do with your budget, and you don't have to scramble every month. But in order to get there, you have to have that mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's like, I'm going to pay for this thing. It's going to be expensive, and I'm going to follow through because it is expensive. And then if you have that mentality, it's easier to sell that to somebody else as well. Join
Mm.
my program because it's going to go through because you've seen programs work, so now it's easier to convince someone else that these programs work,
Yeah,
right? Like I
100%.
think that that's one of the big things. So
Okay. So would that
okay,
be kind of what would you say to yourself like a year ago?
uh-huh.
All right.
Absolutely. It's just just trust the process and
Mm-hmm.
and follow through, right? Like do everything they tell you to do.
100%.
So yeah.
And we already have some big things coming in the future as well, right? I
Mhm.
spoke to Rene. He was already trying to get the ad spend up. And I
Yeah.
think you said, not yet, guys. Let's wait. February is not the best. And
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
March might
Yeah.
be 100K. I
Yeah.
don't want to jinx
Mhm.
it, but
Yeah, Simon's pushing. I'm like, let's just month at a month, I mean, I agree, but I'm also just like, well, give me some time to kind of get my operations up and running as well, right? Just because, like it's like I said, it's running a 12K business versus a 100K business, completely different business. So
yeah,
I want to make sure
100%.
that we're able to grow properly. So
Yeah, I completely agree. But then again, as a marketing agency, we do want to push
right,
you as far
right,
as we can go.
right.
All
And I
right.
appreciate that. So.
You have any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, just, trust the process, right? Like just get in there, be very transparent, communicate very well with the people that work with you and just let it happen, right? So, yeah.
All right, perfect then. Well, it was nice talking to you, Patrick.
Nice talking to you as
And
well, David.
now we get back to work.
Yep. Have
All
a
right
good
then.
day.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.